Every 40 seconds, someone in the United States has a heart attack. But have you ever wondered what actually happens inside the heart, second by second, cell by cell? A heart attack doesn't begin with a dramatic collapse. It begins with a silent, invisible crisis. It starts with one tiny blockage, one starving heart cell, then another. Within minutes, millions of these cells begin a desperate fight for survival. Today, we're shrinking down to the microscopic world inside your coronary arteries to witness a heart attack exactly as it unfolds, from the first rogue cholesterol particle to the moment heart muscle begins to die. Before disaster strikes, let's establish our baseline. What does a healthy, thriving heart look like at this microscopic level? Your heart is an incredible engine, beating about 100,000 times every single day. To keep up that relentless pace, it needs its own dedicated, high-octane fuel supply. That fuel is oxygen, and it's delivered by a special network of vessels called the coronary arteries. Picture them as tiny, life-giving highways that wrap around the surface of the heart, ensuring every part of the muscle gets what it needs. Every single heartbeat, every contraction, depends on a constant stream of oxygen reaching billions of cardiac muscle cells. Without oxygen, these cells can't produce enough ATP, the universal energy molecule that powers their every move. In a healthy heart, the flow is constant, the cells are energized, and the beat goes on. The story of a heart attack doesn't begin on the day it happens. Its origins are far more subtle, starting years, even decades, before any symptoms appear. It all begins with cholesterol. Small particles of LDL, or bad cholesterol, can slip through the artery's inner lining and get trapped inside the wall. Your immune system sees this as a problem and sends in white blood cells called macrophages to clean up. These macrophages engulf the cholesterol, but eventually they become overloaded and bloated. Scientists call these foam cells. Over many years, these foam cells, along with other debris, build up into a lesion called a plaque. For a long time, this process is completely silent. Most plaques remain stable, causing no issues. But some become fragile, like a weak point in the arterial wall, setting the stage for a future crisis. Now comes the critical moment, the flashpoint where a chronic condition becomes an acute emergency. A fragile plaque, after years of silent growth, ruptures. Its thin outer cap cracks open, exposing its core to the bloodstream. Your body's emergency response system makes a catastrophic mistake. It perceives this rupture as an injury, like a cut, and immediately tries to plug the hole. Platelets, the tiny cells that form clots, swarm the area. They become sticky, clumping together over the ruptured surface. Clotting proteins activate, weaving a fibrous mesh that traps even more cells. A blood clot rapidly forms and expands. Within minutes, this clot can grow large enough to completely block the artery. The highway for oxygenated blood is now closed. The blood supply is now blocked. Let's follow the consequences downstream, into the heart muscle itself. The oxygen supply has been cut off. The effect is almost instantaneous. Within seconds, the production of ATP, that essential energy molecule, plummets. The mitochondria, the microscopic power plants inside each heart cell, grind to a halt. They simply cannot function without oxygen, which acts as the final, critical component in their energy-producing assembly line. With energy production collapsed, chaos ensues. The sophisticated pumps that maintain the cell's delicate balance of sodium and potassium begin to fail. Without energy to run them, ions flood in and out uncontrollably. Most dangerously, calcium begins to build up to toxic levels inside the cell. This ionic imbalance doesn't just damage the cell's structure, it disrupts its electrical properties, destabilizing the very system that coordinates the heart's rhythmic beat. The cells are literally running out of power. We are now in the most critical window of time. The first few minutes after the blockage are decisive. If blood flow can be restored quickly, many of these oxygen-starved heart cells can be saved. They can recover. But as time passes, the damage deepens and becomes permanent. With each passing minute, more cells suffer irreversible injury. Their outer membranes, which hold them together, begin to lose integrity and leak. The mitochondria, deprived of oxygen, swell up and break down. The distressed cells send out inflammatory signals, calling for an immune response that, in this case, can cause further damage. Some cells begin to undergo necrosis, a messy, uncontrolled form of cell death where they essentially burst open, spilling their contents and triggering more inflammation in the surrounding tissue. This is precisely why you hear emergency doctors use the phrase, "time is muscle." Every minute of delay means more permanent loss of heart muscle. The clock is truly the enemy. As heart cells become injured, they release chemical signals that activate pain fibers. These urgent messages travel to the brain, which often interprets them as the classic symptom: chest pressure, tightness, or pain. But this experience is far from universal. The brain can get its wires crossed, interpreting the pain as coming from the jaw, the left arm, or the back. Other people feel no pain, but instead experience sudden shortness of breath, nausea, or profound fatigue. The symptoms can be different for everyone, which is why recognizing the wide range of warning signs is so critical. Now for the good news. Amid this cellular crisis, modern medicine can intervene decisively. The goal is urgent: restore blood flow. Doctors may use clot-busting medications to dissolve the blockage. More often, they perform an emergency angioplasty. A cardiologist guides a thin catheter to the blocked artery in the heart. A tiny balloon at its tip is inflated, squashing the clot and plaque against the artery wall and reopening the vessel. To ensure it stays open, a small metal mesh tube called a stent is deployed to act as a permanent scaffold. When oxygen returns, many surviving heart cells begin to recover, but the cells that died cannot regenerate. In their place, the body forms scar tissue, a permanent reminder of the damage done. This underscores once again that the earlier treatment begins, the more heart muscle can be saved. So let's zoom back out. What really happens during a heart attack? It's a dramatic cascade that begins in silence. A plaque develops over years, one sudden rupture triggers a clot, blood flow stops. Within seconds, heart cells lose their oxygen, their power plants shut down, their electrical stability fails, and they begin to die. Every passing minute on that clock determines how much of the heart is scarred forever. The remarkable and hopeful thing is that this entire chain of events is heavily influenced by risk factors we can actually control. We can choose not to smoke. We can manage our blood pressure and keep cholesterol in a healthy range. We can control diabetes, exercise regularly, and eat a heart-healthy diet. These aren't just abstract health tips. They are direct interventions in the microscopic process we've just witnessed. They are ways to keep our artery walls healthy and our plaques stable. A heart attack doesn't truly begin on the day symptoms appear. It begins years earlier with a silent process inside a single artery. And that is where our power to change the story truly lies.